Hi, I'm Grant Whitehead, and I'm currently at Big Bear Lake in California, work with the Salvation Army, and we're doing a Bible conference up here at Pine Summit Camp. And in between sessions here, I thought, well, maybe I'll just show you some of the equipment that we've got for live streaming. But then I also thought, well, I'll show you through the process of how I get a live stream actually happening with this equipment. So it might be of interest to some people that have some of this equipment, but I get asked all the time, people are just interested in how you sort of make it all work. So I'm just going to walk through the process of it happening. But first of all, I thought I'd just show you how we've got the setup down here. So Jason sits down here and controls cameras. So you can see here, I'll cut to the TriCaster screen. You can see there, camera 1. Just cut back quickly. So we've got 3 remotes here, and you'll see camera 1 moving around there. The lights aren't on the stage, so it's a little dark, but that's how we control those little Sony remote cameras. They're a little older now, but they function okay. Number 3 up there, right over on the right, and then number 2, the center one, we can actually bring that right around, and you'll see where we are sitting, tucked in a little exit here, and you'll see some of the setup. So you can see you've sort of got these 2 workstations and the rack in between. Now, so the way that it works is Jason's controlling the TriCaster, and then I sort of have control of it as well. We sort of have 2 operators in that sense. So the TriCaster screen, I've changed it a little bit so we could have the TriCaster interface in here, and then we've got the Mac Minis. But let me move across this way. So then we'll move across to the rack, and you'll see here the soundboard on the top. There's a Soundcraft SI Compact 16, so it's a 16 channel input board. It's a digital board, which means I can run it with, over this way, you can see the iPad there, and you'll see that I can control it with that. Going down in the rack, there's a couple of preview monitors, the Blackmagic preview monitors, and then I've got a Furman power source. I've got 2 power sources that come into the rack. There's a UPS in the bottom, uninterruptible power supply, which will keep all the computers running in case the power cuts out, or what's more common is someone kicks the power out of the wall or something, so it actually protects the equipment well. So there's 2 power sources that I get from 2 different circuits, power outlets, and then we've got 4 Mac Minis in these little racks from Sonnet Rack Mac Mini. There's 4 of those. 4 Mac Minis, and then there's a keyboard KVM switch. It is keyboard, video and mouse switch, which I use to control one set of keyboard and mouse to control the 4 Mac Minis and the TriCaster if I need it. Then there's another SDI router, so all of the inputs, all of the outputs that we run in the rack all run in SDI, so we convert everything into SDI. And so the main router is actually one of the Blackmagic's video hub, the 16x16, and I wish I had bought a bigger one, which is evidenced by this extra 4x4 doing a little bit extra. And then this is just a little patch panel to try to make it a little easier rather than getting to the back. All of the inputs and outputs, camera inputs, screen outputs, all come to the front. And then the TriCaster itself, which is just a big computer on steroids, and the UPS, as I mentioned. In the back, there's a network hub, a switch, a 24-port switch that I use to connect everything on the network. And then there are Intensity Pros, the 4 input devices over Thunderbolt, SDI into Thunderbolt into the Mac Minis, and that gives me input into those. And yeah, a couple of other bits and pieces that are not not too special. The thing that runs the data for all of this is a Cradlepoint LTE, Verizon LTE Cradlepoint. So I run Ethernet in from the venue when I can get it, and then it also has LTE in case I can't get Ethernet, and also as a fail-safe. If the Ethernet cuts out, someone kicks the cable, it'll fall over to LTE and often can work quite well. It's also the Wi-Fi router, which means I can connect the computers, the iPad, and things like that. So that is the rack. Let's then move to where I sit for the duration of these events. And you can now see that we have the 4 Mac Minis. The 4 Mac Minis sitting here are using a Matrox multi-viewer, what's it called? The Micro Quad. And that takes 4 SDI inputs and comes out HDMI. And so I connect a computer monitor to that, and now I can see all 4 of the Mac Minis. Now, I often use the Mac Minis for Skype, so I can actually have up to 4 individual Skype callers, video Skype, and I can have use of them in the TriCaster as 4 independent cameras. And so that's why we have 4. But at an event like this where we're not doing Skype, I'm using it actually to record and to stream and sort of set up the stream and that sort of thing. So let me show you number 2 first. I've got this little remote here that switches what computer the keyboard is controlling. So I'm going to hit 5 to get the TriCaster, and then I'll hit number 6. There you go. So you can see some video feedback there. But what you're seeing is the Blackmagic Media Express software that I'm using to record this. And so what you're seeing is actually the recording as well. So number 2, Mac number 2 is just used for that. We'll go to input number 7, which is our Mac 3. I'll show you what I do with that in a second. That's really used. It's really used just to set up the live stream through YouTube. So I'll show you that. And then number 4 is used for the actual live streaming using Wirecast. Okay, so let us go into number 3, and first of all set up a new event. Number 3 is actually number 7 on the TriCaster input, and now I'll change the keyboard. Okay, so I open Chrome is what I use. It's great because across all the computers I can have them syncing. So here we go, the live events, and these are events that are coming up. So I set all the events in, but for this purpose, let's go ahead and create a new one. TriCaster live stream test, and it will be today, and we can say 4 o'clock is fine, just a test. We can keep it private for this purpose, is fine. Now you can do the Google Hangout, but we like to have more encoding options, and so we do the custom. Okay, now this is where you choose a thumbnail for the event. We can just keep that blank at the moment. Now here's something interesting. If you have basic ingestion, you can just choose what your encoding level will be. What I choose to do, because often I'm doing lots of events, and instead of having to pick the event in Wirecast each time, I use a custom ingestion. So here's been a few different ones. But you can see you can create a new one. All it really is you choose what resolution you're going to do it at. I usually do 720p. Trying to do 1080 out of one Mac Mini, it really doesn't work too well. The encoding just it doesn't hold up with that resolution, and 720p is often plenty there. So we'll do that, and that would create the details here, and you go down, you can see these are the specifics that you put into Wirecast. In fact, you really can do it with any real-time multimedia protocol is the output there. But Wirecast is what we'll use, and that's what we would cut and paste. For the purpose of what I'm doing here, I'm going to go to the one that I use all the time, Online Core 720. And now we're ready. Save changes. That'll create the event. If we go back to the event manager, here we go. We can see TriCaster livestream test, and so that's ready as an event. All right, let's cut over to 4. And I'll show you. Okay. Just changing my. This is something that I'm constantly doing is changing the keyboards around and choosing which computer I'm controlling. I have had different keyboards at different times, but this is easier, surprisingly. We're going to open Wirecast. Okay, I'll set up a new. We'll do it as a new setup here. So, first of all, the thing that we can do is come here and choose our input, which is the Ultra Studio Express. And it's showing what I'm outputting. Let me change that. We go to the TriCaster. Here you go. Here you see some trickiness that I'll do. Go to the TriCaster. I'm going to the output that I have on the auxiliary. Let's change that to the camera behind me, which is number 4. Change it to the same. Alright, so I've done that. And now I'm going to change it in that router that we saw before. So we choose. There we go. So all I did there was I changed the input of the Ultra Studio on Mac number 4. I changed it to the preview output of the TriCaster, so that when we're looking at the screen, so now when I cut to number 8, input number 8, you can see this is the 4 input, Mac Mini 4. If you're staying up with me, you're doing better than I am, because I'm almost losing myself here. This is the sort of stuff that goes on in my head. And one person that asks me all the time about this stuff is Brian, who I do a show with all the time. And so here's an insight, Brian, into what's going on in my head. So here you go. Now we can see the Wirecast screen on Mac number 4. We have that set up now. So now let's go and let's change this. I always like to change the layout a bit, not have a preview. And so this is what's going live. Now we go to output source. So the canvas size is 720p, which is great. It's coming in at 1080i, but 720p is fine, because that's what we're outputting it as. Output settings, here we go. All right. Let me think if I have it stored. I guess I don't. Okay, so what happens is, if we were doing just the YouTube settings, we could go here. We would authenticate. And then it will show a list of events. You could choose the event. It would show a list of events. This actually has been a little problematic for me recently, which is why I do this preset. Alright, well, what I'm going to do here is the RTMP server and I'm going to copy and paste those in from YouTube, which I can go off here. So we've got the, yep. Let's go to the video manager. Create a studio. They keep moving these things around. Video manager, live events, test. We go edit, and we see the ingestion settings. Okay, and now we can cut and paste. Oop, that's the stream name. Put that in there. Come back to the primary server. Often I don't have enough bandwidth to do a backup, and really I haven't ever had a need where I've needed to do a backup stream as well at the same time. So it's doing the single stream is fine. Okay, now the other thing that we're checking here, and this has been a little trick for me, is Wirecast has already got all these presets built into it. So we can go here, and you'll see when you go way up here, you keep going up, here's these presets. So I really work out, I try to work out what we have, what bandwidth we have, and halve it. So I do a speed test, and I see how much we've got, and at this location, I think we should have about 5 megabit, which is not amazing. I always love to have 10, but 5 is enough to get a good, you know, a decent quality stream, particularly because we're only doing sort of talking head stuff. It's not high action sport or something. There you go. So I think they have about 50 down, and lots of people aren't using it. And it'll have 5 up, hopefully. We'll have a look. Speedtest.net is a good one to use. It's not a high volume thing. It's sort of picking on the peaks, but it's generally enough. And if you use it all the time, you get used to that. Becomes sort of your benchmark. So yeah, we've got 5 there. So that means comfortably you would want to use about half of that. And so around that 2.5 is a good amount to use. So what we had here when we went way up, we would see that, and I just know by having looked around a little bit. There's recommended, there's minimum, and there's maximum. So I think the minimum's probably about 1 megabit per second. The recommended is what we're going to use, which is about 2 plus audio, a little bit more. And then the maximum, which is what I use when we're in our studio, is 4 meg, and that the maximum stream there. So what we're going to use is the recommended, and there's X264, which is a different codec. It's based on H.264. It's a little less heavy on the processor on the Mac Mini, and so that's why I tend to use it, and I've used it quite comfortably. So that's the setting there. I can leave all these settings because I'm happy with it. So it's there we go. Yeah, it's 2.5 plus some audio, and then you need to save it as its own. You save it as its own, so that when you come in here in coding, you can say YouTube test, and there we go. So 2.6. Yeah, 2.6 roughly. Well, no, the calculations on kilobits and bits and bytes is all 8, which is not even. Anyway, for this purpose, that works, right? So we put in the details from YouTube, the stream, and the address, and now we've chosen the encoding, which is working well for our location. Now we can hit stream. Okay, And now we can switch out to, go back to the TriCaster. Now I'm going to switch back to number 3, so I'm going to hit my screen here, which is going to show me back to, there we go, number 3. We could have done it on the same one, but I like having it separate. And then we'll go number 2. Sorry, 3. Alright. I'll change my keyboard back to 3. Alright, now we can go to the live control room, and because we hit streaming, it's saying it's preview, and so it's brought up that there's a good stream quality, and that it's got a preview here. So when we hit preview, that starts preparing the stream. And what I've been doing recently, they added recently, being able to sync to preview player. So before you can actually start the stream going to the public, you need to have the preview window going. So this just takes a few seconds. There we go. So now when we hit the preview screen, we should be able to see my lovely face. There we go, because that's what we're outputting, just that single camera is being streamed right now. So now, when we hit start stream, if this button is clicked sync to preview player, then whatever is seen here is what will start the stream. So that can be tricky when you're hosting, like I do often. I'm hosting and controlling and doing all sorts of stuff like what I'm doing now. That can be a little tricky, because you've got about a minute delay, and so when you start, you kind of get in this time warp where you start and you start talking, but your stream hasn't technically started yet, and that doesn't start until after, and so it's a bit of a headache. But it is nice for the to know exactly what's going out at the start of your stream. And then secondly, you can do another really cool thing, which is these create highlights. And I've been using that particularly in these Bible conferences where we have these sessions. We have these sessions where there's singing and all sorts of stuff before, and then there's sort of the lecture that happens. And so what I do is I live stream the whole event, but then I create a highlight of just that lecture, and that becomes its own YouTube video. And I don't have to edit it or anything. I don't have to edit and upload again. It's just there, which is very, very cool. So we can hit the start stream. Let me go back again to number 3. So once we do this, we're now streaming, and we could hit here, view on watch page, and we'd see it. Yeah, so it's still based on the time, because I had it to start in 40 seconds. But it's streaming now, and people will see that when they go back and see the event afterwards. They would see that. So in 30 seconds that will start. Let me show you while I'm here my app for audio. So I'll zoom in for you and you can have a little look. It's a pretty cool little app that shows me exactly. So you can see my VU meter going up there. Pop, 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 pop. You can see little compressors working as well. Pop, 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 pop. And so I sit there. I mean, often I go back to the tactile control and up at the top, but it's great having it all very handy. If I need to just jump on the faders quickly, I can do that with the iPad. So that's particularly handy. So we're live streaming now. You can see there on the screen. And so that's how I get the stream going. On top of that, I do a couple of little things where it was currently private. Let's make it public. I do a little thing where instead of embedding the code each time, I just put the whatever is my live event, I put it in a private playlist, which I only ever maintain one video in it. So you can see here, let me swap for you. You can see the screen a bit better. It's going to be a long video, but I hope it's worthwhile. You can fast forward if you like. So there you go, I run that into that playlist so I can get rid of the previous one, and then there's only ever one in that playlist, and so then my embed code at onlinecourse/live, and there you go, has the live stream. I use a hosting company called Ning, ning.com, and the main reason is because people log in, and then we have the chat system that sits on the side. And then I've got a few other little scripts running that show the next events, and we've got this one that automatically picks up when I have live events that are running. It'll bring that screen up. So that's all sort of just done automatically. And so that's how you see it there. So then when it comes to shutting it down, we can get the shortcut there, go back into here, to the control panel, and we say goodbye, and we do a fade to black often, and we wait till we see that. If we were to wave goodbye here, bye-bye, you have to wait, because if you stop the stream before it's actually finished live, it'll cut it off. So you can see here the delay. It's me talking. Hi Grant, hi past Grant. You just started the stream, gonna wave now. There we go. And so that was a wave, so then we can stop it. And there you go. Amazing. So that's now properly stopped. If we went back here, look at that, we see the wave again, because that's the actual stream. We were watching the preview before. And it'll catch up a little bit. And it will stop. Well, we'll sync to it. That's interesting. I haven't actually done this test before. There you go. So it was a little bit of extra delay there, but not much. So the event is over, and you could watch it back. We could watch it right from the start, and you can see it all there. So there you go. I hope that is helpful. I just had the idea that perhaps people would be interested in how I sort of make all that stuff happen. Also, if I get hit by a bus tonight, I'll just tell them, watch this video and you can see how I've set up the system to work. So if there's any questions or anything, by all means put a comment on below this video in YouTube, and I'd love to answer it. Very happy to share wisdom as we have around the industry. It's all very interesting. Thanks. Bye bye.